Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another stream and another video and another part of doing this guy here. That's Joe Amato's Top Fuel Dragster. If you don't know what those are, well, watch this. So, Top Fuel Dragsters, most powerful cars on the planet. That is without a doubt the truth. Now, building this particular kit, we are going back to the late 80s, early 90s, because that's when this kit was built. Okay, Revell, I guess back in those days, Revell and Monogram were two very popular model companies that did a lot of model cars, as well as planes and other things. But cars were a big thing. Model cars were huge back in the 80s and 90s. Revell and Monogram kind of did their own things, and they had their own series and stuff like that. So where Revell did these dragsters and funny cars, Monogram you could get like pro mod cars and like street machines and stuff like that. And then of course the two companies kind of merged. They became Revell Monogram, and you would see that like up here, up right here, up at the top here on the box, you would have Revell, and underneath would be Monogram. They were together, merged, and then all of a sudden you just didn't see Monogram anymore. That's the way it was. Anyway, so that's my very limited knowledge on the two companies and how they did things. But they don't make them anymore. Even Revell, they don't make these kits. They don't make any real dragster kits anymore. It's like they just don't. Even though Top Fuel Dragsters, you know, back in the 90s, you know, you had your hot rod cars that had a couple hundred horsepower, 200, 300 horsepower was pretty rare, but you could soup them up and you could wind up getting yourself a decent Mustang or Camaro that had like 300 horsepower, 400 horsepower even. Pretty crazy stuff back then. It was just kind of unheard of. Of course nowadays Camaro and Mustang have 400 horsepower, it's nothing. But you go back to the 1990s, a 400 horsepower car was a really fast car. When you got into like 5, 6, 7,000 horsepower, you're talking crazy car. This thing is not even, you're not driving on the street anymore. This is a race only. But you get up into the really crazy categories like this. These cars had 5,000 horsepower. 5,000, not 500, 5,000 horsepower. Shake the ground, shake the eyeballs in your head when they take off. It's just absolutely crazy. You fast forward, what's it been, 30 years? And these things got 12,000 horsepower now. 12,000, that's unfathomable in a V8 engine that could quite literally fit under the hood of your car. Well, some cars anyway. It wouldn't run, it wouldn't be able to handle it, but you could. The size-wise dimensions, one of these engines is basically the same design as your regular V8 engine. Okay, just put to the extreme. Anyway, I'm rambling. We're not going on. We're not getting into the model kit here. So basically, what have I done since last time? Well, last time we did all the priming, got everything's all painted black now. And I did a bunch of little detail painting and got some stuff just kind of prepared. So I painted the fire extinguisher red. I got some fittings on these oil pump lines done on the little back wall that sits behind the seat. Got some little knobs and things painted up. The brake pedal's black, the brake handle, little things like that. There's the throttle pedal, the gas pedal, the master cylinder for the brakes, got that painted. I took my pin vise and went in the holes of the exhausts and just drilled them a little deeper. Just a little deeper. I didn't go crazy with them. It's just, you know, it went from maybe 1 or 2 millimeters deep to maybe 5 or 6. I just drilled it a little bit deeper, and then I just painted inside them black. Pretty simple stuff. It's not too crazy. Somebody asked me on my last video if I was going to be plumbing the engine. I'm going to say yes and no. I'm not going crazy. I'm not a hyper detail modeler. As you guys know, if you watch my channel, I don't go into crazy detail on stuff in an attempt to make it actually look super real. But I do a little bit. An example of that would be this engine that I've assembled for a different kit. It's basically the exact same engine. It is the exact same engine, it's just for a different kit. And as you can tell, I've done the spark plug wires. Those wires do not come with the kit, and so I've done those myself. So what I thought I would show you today is how I did these. Okay, so we look at this one here. We have the two magnetos. You pop the hood on your car. If it's older than a 2000 car, you're going to have a distributor on your engine. Okay, that's what these basically are. Except these put out so much more spark power than what your normal car has. These are called magnetos. He's not the X-Men Magneto, but there's two of them. Okay, so I'll show you here. I've painted these ones blue because, well, that's the color I'm going with this Valvoline. And what I did is I took my pin vise. Now these have little tiny indents for what would be where your spark plug wires go, all around them. Okay, all around these guys. So all I did was, using those as a guide, I just drilled them a little. I drilled them out just a little bit deeper. Again, it's not going all the way through or anything, or going in too deep. It's just enough that I can take a wire, just a piece of wire here, and just sit it in there, and then it will sit. Okay, and when I put some glue on there, it'll stay. And that's all that, the reasoning behind that. Okay, just so that the wire isn't going to be sitting on the outside. It's actually going to look like it's going in like it's supposed to. Okay, so that is where I begin. I begin with that. Where I get this wire from, this wire is literally, it's just automotive electrical wire, like 16 gauge wire that you can buy at Lordco or Napa or whatever, any automotive place. Buy some wire. It's regular electrical wire. It's audio, stereo wire, that kind of stuff. And all I did was take the sheathing off of it, and I got a whole bunch of it here. We cut it to about that long, and I've got my wires. Now, of course, although it's a V8, you got two magnetos, you got two spark plugs per cylinder, so you've got a total of 16 wires. And so, on the valve cover, did I take the other valve cover off? No, I didn't. Valve cover's still sitting here. So let's get this off the sprue. Alright, here's our other valve cover. I've already started. I've got this one done. Okay, well, we'll get to it. I'll show you what I did. Just going to make sure my nub is gone off of this before we get started, because it's a bit of a pain. It's a little bit hard to work with the valve covers once you've got the spark plug wires in them. And I know some guys, they do this while it's all assembled. I don't like that. I find it a lot easier to work with before put any wires on there. So typical standard issue chrome, you have to remove the chrome from the plastic before you glue it, otherwise it's really not going to stick. The glue does not eat through the chrome, and that's normal. So just scraping off the chrome where it's going to meet to the cylinder head. Okay, so we have that. So what I do is I take a couple of my little wires and I take a tweezer. I'm going to change the camera so you can see a little easier what I'm doing. Okay, this is basically the end result. Okay, you basically have a cylinder head or a valve cover with a whole bunch of little wires sticking out of it, and they're all connected underneath, and they're actually all glued in under there. Okay, so but how do you get here? Well, I'm going to take, move my mouse here, I'm going to take two wires, put them together, take my glasses off, put them together, line them up, doesn't really matter. Grab just the tip of them and hold them tight. Okay, take one, bend it like this, bend this one like that, and now I'm going to twist them. I'm going to make sure, see I didn't grab onto it properly. So let's try this again. Okay. You're still not holding. You got to hold it. You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. So I'm just trying to wrap these together a little bit. A couple of turns, all I need. You don't need a lot. Do that, kind of bring them together. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that I've got a good twist on this so that they stay. The whole thing is to get them to make sure they stay. The nice thing is the depth of the valve cover allows for this. Okay, so now I'm just going to take them, kind of put these two ends together, and I'm going to put them through. Oh, I guess I failed to mention, I've already drilled out the holes for these to go through. Okay, so I just line them up to a couple of holes here and push them through. Okay, pull them through till you get to the point where they don't really want to go anymore, and then I kind of bend them over. Bend them over so they're kind of tight and they're not moving around too much. Okay. You don't want to have so much that there's the wire sticking out this, an inch out of here. So if you wind up with something like that, you'll want to trim it off a little bit. Okay. I'm right at the edge here with my wire, so I just want to make sure I'm going to have a good fit. See, you even have a pretty good depth inside the cylinder head, right? So you can put work around with lots of wire in there if you really want to, but you don't want to go too crazy with it, right? All right, that's looking pretty good. It's going to fit. So I'm good with that. That's one pair. So let's move on and we'll get these done. Okay, so we have those done, and I even have an extra one. We'll deal with that later. So the next thing I need to do is I'm going to glue them in there. I'm going to use some CA glue, and I'm going to use my Instaset for the glue. I'm going to sacrifice one of my little brushes. Find my brushes. There they Got this pack of brushes on Amazon pretty cheap, so I can easily spare them and not worry about it. Just put a couple here for extra. So what I'm going to do, see this brand new brush, it's like the bristles are almost stuck together. It's super cheap brush. This is like a 50-cent brush. So the fact that I'm about to glue all the bristles together really doesn't bother me. One-time use, that's perfectly fine. Just gonna take some CA, put it in here. It's more than enough. Okay, so I'm just going to use the brush, soak up some glue, and kind of dab it around in here. I'm putting it on the wire and on the piece. So I'm not only gluing the wires together, but I'm also gluing it to the piece. It's already starting to do its job. That's great. Normally I would prefer to use some thicker stuff, but the only thicker CA I have is the black, and I don't really want to use it. Once you get it to a point where they're kind of sitting and they're not moving around, that's where you want it. Where the glue is holding them in place. And I'm just going to take this and drop it in there. This to soak up a bit of the extra, and there we go. Okay, and now our wires are sit in place. Okay, and that's what we want. Perfect. I'm going to make sure that I don't need more glue, because they are going to get bent. Okay. Looking pretty good. Alright, this brush, be careful, I don't want to touch it. I'll let that sit over here and cure nicely all on its own. I've pretty much used up all of that in there, so that can just dry like it is. There we go. Okay. So, sorry, just drinking my coffee. So, next thing, oh, hi Makeup Boy, welcome to the channel. So now, we know that this is going to go on this way, and it's going to sit like that. Okay, and these wires are going to run this direction down here. We're going to cross over here and then go up. Okay, you'll see I've done a similar kind of route on this engine, where we're going to cross down in front of the blower but behind the fan belt. Okay, and they sit like that. So that's not only going to give us the route that we need to take through here, but also give us an idea of the length that we need to trim them down to. So one thing I did before is I took these tweezers and kind of put them here like this and bent the wire over them. to give them that illusion so they're not just bending at 90 degrees right out of the hole, right? Because you can just take that and bend it over, but I don't want to do that. So let's take this off of here because I know it'll fall off. And we can just grab the wire like this and then bend it and give it a bit of an actual curve, not straight out of the hole. And we'll do that with each one. Like that. Now, did I do that on this side? Not really. They're all going to be going in about the same direction. Sometimes grabbing the actual one that you want to grab is a little difficult because they get a bit tied up together. Let's do that. Final two. Just like that. Okay. So now that they're all together like this, put this down and start our route. Kind of hold them like this and kind of slowly work them down. You want to keep them together, which actually will add to the look. To tuck them down like this. I'm going to keep the valve cover situated where it's supposed to belong. The wire conforms nicely, and then we come back up over to this side, and this is where we start making decisions. Because this is where my limited knowledge comes into play, because I don't know the firing order of the engine and where each spark plug goes to. So I've made an assumption. That assumption is, let's just take number one cylinder right here. Every engine, number one is on this side and at the front. At least to my knowledge, every engine is. So, number one cylinder, but in our cars and trucks and stuff like that, we've got one spark plug per cylinder, right? And so that's pretty simple. Number one goes to number one on the distributor, or the coil pack, or whatever you happen to have. But these guys got 2 plugs per cylinder. And because we got 2 plugs per cylinder, we also have 2 distributors, or magnetos. So my assumption is one plug goes to one magneto, and the other plug goes to the second magneto. That's my assumption. Okay? And that's kind of what I've done, and you can see that's what I've done here. That's why you've got a bank that's kind of going down this way and a bunch of wires going up to this way, because they're actually going to be going to each separate magneto. Rather, because I know, I'm pretty sure we don't have all 8 plugs on this side going to this magneto and all 8 plugs on this side going to this magneto. I don't think they do that at all. I'm pretty sure when you look at reference photos of dragster engines, which these days is actually harder to find than I would think, especially older ones like this. If you do a Google search of top fuel dragster engine, you're going to see the modern engines where the scoops on them are like really tall. They come up really high off of the blower. They're not short. They're not really tucked down like this one is. The modern ones really come up high. Anyway, you'll see that the plethora of wires coming off of these things, they don't just go one side goes to this one and the other side goes to that. So again, I need to make the decision which wires to trim shorter than the others. And you know, we're going to be going over to this side to reach around and get in there, right? If I can get close in on my camera on this one, you'll see how I've done that. So go in there, you can see what I've done with those wires, right? Just like that. One bank of wires goes to one side, and just like that, and that's the way it goes. Okay. So anyway, that's that. So now my camera's going to be hunting for focus constantly, so that views, yeah. Anyway, so that's what I've done, and that's what I'm going to do on this. So I'm going to do some trimming on this, and get those worked around and bent in there so that they line up and stuff like that, and then I'll paint them. Before I actually start gluing, I got to paint these, right? Because, well, it's a bit of a chore to get paint in underneath there when it's all on the engine, so I paint them first and then I trim and do that. But anyway, I wanted to show you guys that. That's going to be that's my spark plug wire adventure as far as that goes. But I want to get to actually building this thing. So we have our frame here. So as you saw last time, I did this in the Mr. Surfacer 1500 black, and then I went over it with TS13, Tamiya's TS13 clear. And so I got a nice glossy black cage, or frame, whatever you want to call it. This guy here I'm going to have to mask because I've got to paint the top here white, and then the sides are going to be blue. The particular color of blue I'm choosing is Mr. Colors 328. I know, right? I'm not using Tamiya this time? No, not this time. I just wanted to find a blue that looks really good and matches the Valvoline blue color as best as I could, because I don't really want to try and mix my own and come up with, here's a blue, and there we go. And now I need to put it in an empty jar and have this particular color for this application only and never use it again. I don't want to do that. I wanted a blue that's already pre-done for me. So yeah. So anyway, I got this primed. I need to mask this. What I need to do really, because it's going to line up with the decals that go on the sides, right? And they come down to a point here. So I've got to I'll trim these decals out, see how they fit. That's way I know where to mask along the edge here. Just probably just going to be right on the edge here. But yeah, I want to make sure that's correct before I actually do that. Let's see. So we got the engine pretty much built. It's time to do the actual assembly. So after the engine is done, which, well, although technically we're not done yet, but you can see I have a finished engine there. We need to find our control module, which is off of the C tree number 62. Where's my box? Grab my box. as you guys can see, not only did I do everything in the Mr. Surfacer, I did clear coat on the parts that are supposed to be clear. You can see the difference, and I did some of the gloss aluminum. Can really tell the difference from like this piece here has a clear on it. It actually makes the black more black. It's kind of funny. And then did the gloss aluminum on parts that are supposed to be aluminum. Oh, that's kind of a strange concept, right? So, yeah. Anyway. You know, when you really think about it, there's not a whole lot of parts on this thing. So I need number 62. That is this piece here. This is a control box. It is kind of neat. It's a nice, refreshing thing that Revell actually names out what the parts are on the sprue or in the diagram. This is a control box. What it controls, I don't know, but it's a control box. So I realize by painting everything on the sprues, I'm probably going to have to clean up a lot of marks and stuff. So that they've got this little black square right there. This goes down right on top of it, just like that, and that's where that sits. Okay. There we go. Control box installed. Okay, we move to number 8. And we're going to put the front suspension in, which is a chrome piece. And that's this right here. Let me change the camera. I keep forgetting to change back. And especially, I got to turn autofocus off again so you can see. This is something that might be a bit debatable. I don't know if the actual suspension on the real car was chrome or even silver. I imagine this frame here is probably black, so would be black to match the frame in the car. And maybe you've got chrome arms. One thing I always found interesting, you notice this is not straight. One wheel actually sits forward of the other. You see that? Can you guys see that or not? That's not a straight line. I realize it's blurry because I turned autofocus off, but that's not a straight line, right? If I put it on here and show you, I don't know. It's anyway. It goes. They're like this, right? They're like, They're not. They're like that. Anyway, I always found that interesting that they sit like that. I need to clean up. Do I need to clean anything up? Yes, I do. Right there. Alright, so this guy goes in just behind the control box, and you actually kind of wedge it in there. So the way they show you is like you put it in there flat, get it in the bottom, and you wedge it up like that. So you've got some contact points there that the glue is not going to really stick. So we need to clean out these little notches and get that chrome out of there. Otherwise, she ain't gonna stick at all. Do that on all 4 corners. All right. this back in, and then we're going to use our thin. Alright, so front suspension, or lack thereof, is installed. Now we have a steering assembly. This is also on the chrome tree. We want number 22. It's this guy here. Steering assembly. There we go. And so it's going to go kind of through in between and go on each bar here. So it's going to sit on top of it, so I need to get the chrome off of those spots. There we go. Also off of this side. And then we need to get the chrome off of this. And a byproduct of scraping the chrome off of this is also we're going to be flattening out this so that it will sit better on top of it. Because kind of, you know, typical Revell's process, there's a big seam line going all the way across this chrome piece here that's very visible, and it's very evident that it's two halves that were pushed together, and the molding process is not all that great. So this guy, he's got a little pin here that goes into the center that's going to give you kind of a guide also to make sure that you're getting it in the right spot. So we literally just sit it like that. This actually would have been an easier thing to do before putting it on the car. But for whatever reason, we're not. Okay. And there we have our steering arms in. So what's next? Next we're going to assemble our fuel tank. That's these two pieces here. Now although these are chrome, I sprayed them with the gloss aluminum because I know from real life they are not dipped in chrome. They're just aluminum fuel tanks. Something like street rods and show cars, yeah, they might actually go to the trouble of having their fuel tanks chrome dipped. But top fuel dragster drivers, car owners, they don't bother chrome dipping their fuel tanks. So just making sure there's a big section in the middle here that's going to make contact with this, not only the sides. And same with this, it's kind of in the middle where it's going to make the contact, as well as the sides. So, all right, let's throw some glue at this. You notice I didn't clean up the nubs. I wanted to wait until I got it together before cleaning these up, because then I'll clean them up all at the same time. You got the 2 holes already done for the fuel line to go in, which is nice. Now we have a couple of mounting points on the chassis. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where it's going to sit. And we've got our little notched out things. And again, I need to clean those out. In order for this to actually stick. So, let's get scraping on here. Okay, so we've got our spots done. And she's set in place. Alright, fuel tank's in. Gotta open up the fold in the book here. Now we have our fuel lines. Fuel lines I have not finished. Although I've painted the fuel line aluminum, I did not do the fittings on there. And I really should. So let's close up our glue. Grab my black. It's only 4 tiny little spots, so I'll just do those real quick on the sprue and get them done first. I love big paint bubbles. Alright, that end's done. I think I just dipped my finger in the paint. Yep, I did. Almost done. Alright, so those are done. Alright, so I don't want my paintbrush to dry like this, so I need to clean my brush. I'll be back in a minute. Alrighty. So, let's get this off of the sprue and ready to go on the car. Right. Okay. So it is going to go in. We line up our two pipes into the fuel tank like so, but oops, we gotta actually go in through here, and now we're in the fuel tank, and then it just sits down like that. So really 2 points to glue, where this box sits there, and then the fuel, and where it mounts in the tank, and that's it. So glue there, and glue on our nubs. Glue the nipples. Make sure to go in like this. You kind of want to get it sort of lined up before making contact with anything. Make sure it's shoved in where it needs to be, and down we go. Just putting a little bit of pressure on there to hold it down while the glue does its thing. And we'll have a look at the next step. Next step looks like we're going to do a bulkhead and our gas pedal and our brake pedal. Now I'm kind of debating, glue's not, didn't get a very good seal here, so thin set to the rescue. Although it is touching against the side rails here, I don't want to glue that. You're going to need that little bit of a flex when you're putting the engine in, because the fuel pump on the front of the engine actually sits into these little holes here. Yes, thin set, or should I say the thin quick setting to the rescue to hold that in. Okay, so we need our chrome bulkhead. We're still working with our chrome tree. We need our bulkhead, also known as a, I don't know, is it a firewall? No, it's not. On your car and my car, this would be a firewall. It's a wall that sits between you and the engine on your car. Goes in the front here. Okay. The trick that's going to be, so you have to remember, we have a really long steering rod. The reason why the fuel tank is shaped the way it is because you've got a steering rod that goes all the way through, goes through from the steering all the way up to the steering wheel, which is about here, and it goes through here. That's why there's a hole in this, because the steering rod is going to go through there, and you have to make sure the hole is big enough to actually fit. In this case, our hole is no problem. In fact, what I can do, preemptively remove this off of the sprue. Okay, to make sure that it's going to go through. Should go all the way through and fall. Oh, hit the nub. But that's the thing, your steering rod needs to be able to fit through all your bulkheads. Okay. So anyway, this goes on, and which way is it going to face? Where do we have here? So we've got the detail on it, and then the other side's just blank. The detail is going to face towards the back of the car. And the funny thing is, they don't even show you putting it in. They just kind of skip that step. The step where you actually install the wall is not shown at all. It's just suddenly, boom, that wall's there. But that's okay because we know where it goes, right? Do we know where it goes? Well, it appears that it goes at the front here, but what I want to do is put the gas pedal and the brake pedal in first, because I got to put them down in here like this, and if I put this wall in first, it's kind of going to be in the way, I think. If I do this, see, it just kind of sits. I think it sits like that. Yeah. It just sits like that. That's it. But now, how am I putting my gas pedal? I got need tweezers to put them down, which is not a big deal. Yeah. So anyway, we need number 33 and 34. Those are our pedals. 34 is quite clearly a big honking pedal here. And then 33 was our brake. Here's our two pedals. Okay. So, checking here the way they're supposed to go. Yes. So, once again, we want it to stick, so we gotta scrape off the chrome where we want to actually touch plastic to plastic. In similar fashion with this. Which is the, I don't know, the detrimental thing about chrome parts, right? Is you do have to scrape the chrome off where you're going to glue it. Otherwise they don't stay. Now they're nice enough to actually have a hole in the chassis for the pedal to go through. And both slotted to only fit the one pedal, so you can't get them mixed up. If for some reason you don't know how to drive and you don't know which side of the car your brake and gas would be on. See, I can't even get there with my tweezers. Okay. gas pedal and brake pedal installed. And since my wall is already there, I might as well glue it in. Alright, so we got those done. I'm going to check my time because I'm going to have to get going soon. Yeah, it's just about time to go. Just about time. So, what I'll do is I'll put in our long lever and short lever. That's next. They just get attached to, well, I guess there's a little notch back here and then onto this pillar. So number 75 and 76. Okay, let's take a look at those. We'll put these on and then I'll get going. 75 and 76. I believe 75 is, well, I actually don't know what these levers are. I'm not even going to try and guess what these ones are. One looks like it would be like a big emergency brake of some sort. This one here is a pretty hefty looking lever. But again, I don't know. So it actually looks like it's two. I don't know if you would grab both of these handles and lift, or you have to squeeze this one in order to pull it back and then you hold the whole thing. I don't know. I really don't know. This one, however, just sits on the edge, but it's got pins sticking out of it, but there's no hole for the pin to go into. So let me take a look here. We actually have 4 levers, and not 2. This one has a pin in it. That's for this one. Or not, sorry, not a pin, it has a hole, and that's where that one goes. So, a little bit of glue there. Grab this guy. He's in place. This big lever goes in back here. Just like that. And we have 2 more. The chute lever and a short lever. No, sorry, the chute lever and another short lever. 74 and 76 again. 74 right here, and 27. They mentioned 2076 in the book, but it's number 27 on the sprue. Somebody did a typo. These ones are literally just polar opposites of each other. And so this little flat block is what's going to be going up against the chassis. So clean off that chrome. Clean off my nub. Scrape off this chrome. Okay. And so they go in a couple little spots. Back here and back here, I believe. Let's go double check my instructions. Yes and yes. Okay. So we'll start with this one. Put a little dab of glue there. And we're going to take this one. They've kind of molded it so that it matches the contour of this little thing sticking off of there. Okay, so now we'll repeat on the other side. Just like that. All right. So all our levers are on. The next thing is to install some cross braces at various points across here. And but yeah, that's going to be these pieces here. As you can see, they've got the holes in them. I'll bring it over here. You see the holes in them for the steering rod to go through on these. But that is going to have to be next time. Because I gotta get going. And so yeah, that's going to be it for today. In the meantime, or at least until next time, I'll work a little bit more on my spark plug wires and get those painted up. And yeah, and then we're going to continue this next time, and we'll continue on the build and get a little bit closer to being finished. Looks like next time we should be able to get the frame done completely. Ah, there we go. They show us 2 steps later putting in the bulkhead. So back here we're putting in our pedals. We're putting in our brake pedals, and they show the bulkhead in place. But 2 or 3 steps later they show us actually putting the bulkhead in. Isn't that wonderful? And in fact, they show it going in a different spot. This is in the wrong spot. Wrong spot. This is supposed to go 1 bar back, like this. according to the instructions, which confuses me, because if it's going that far back, okay, let me show you this. I'm going to show you this. This is messed up. In step 14, they show the bulkhead here going down. Where? Where does it go? The lines here, this is for your instrument gauges, okay? And this bar goes into this notch here, which goes across to here. So where does the bulkhead go? They don't show it down here anywhere. Then they magically show it here in spot, which is here's our brake pedal right here. And that's exactly where I had it. But in this picture, it's not in here, and it's showing the line. This confuses you, making you think you should be putting the bulkhead at this point. But then in 16, they show it here in, there's your throttle, sorry, your brake pedal again, right there. So it goes in front of the pedals, not back here. Let's get that out of there. I had it in the right spot, and I went and ripped it out of there. Well, there is a bar that's supposed to go there, and the bar goes, this bar goes forward of the bulkhead. So that notch is right there across these two, and that's, so the bulkhead goes between this bar and the pedals. So that's fine. I'll glue that back on later. I'll fix that up later and I'll glue it back on later. But I want to thank you guys for watching, and thanks for coming out. You know, I'm smelling how close I am to 500 subscribers on YouTube. So please guys, I'm almost halfway to my to 1,000. I'm almost at 500. I can taste it. I'm almost at 500. That's really exciting. And so hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. I know something like 80% of you haven't subscribed. So come on guys, just do it. Anyway, check out my description box for a couple of links down there to my Twitch and my Twitter and Instagram. Check out my pictures on my Instagram if you feel like doing that. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next one.